I stood in the hallway of my parents' apartment building, watching as my mother tossed my belongings into garbage bags. My books, my clothes, my memories, all treated like trash because my sister Sophia needed my room for her creative space. "Mom, please," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I paid rent for that room. We had an agreement." She didn't even look at me as she continued emptying my closet. "Sophia needs somewhere to work on her art portfolio. You have a job, you can find your own place." I bit back a bitter laugh. Yes, I had a job. A very good one actually, though my family didn't know the details. They thought I was just another corporate drone, working entry-level IT at some nameless tech company. They had no idea I was the founder and CEO of Secure Core Systems, one of the fastest-growing cybersecurity firms in the city. "What about my rent payment for this month?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "We'll use it to buy Sophia's art supplies," my mother replied, throwing my favorite sweater into a bag. "She's going to be a famous artist, you know. Not everyone can be satisfied with a boring office job." The irony was almost painful. Last week I'd signed a contract worth $50 million. Yesterday I'd been featured in Forbes' 30 Under 30. But to my family I was just Diana, the disappointment who chose computers over creativity. "Where am I supposed to go?" I asked, watching as she yanked down the photography prints I'd carefully hung on the walls. "More trash bags." "Figure it out," she said. "Sophia needs this space more than you do." Sophia, my younger sister, the artistic genius, the family favorite. She'd spent the last 5 years finding herself, while living off our parents, switching between painting, sculpture, and digital art without ever finishing a single project. But she was pursuing her passion, so everything was forgiven. I picked up one of the garbage bags, feeling the weight of my life being discarded. Through the open door I could hear Sophia in the living room, talking excitedly about her plans for my room. "The lighting is perfect for my canvases. And once we paint over that awful blue color." My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from my real estate agent. "Offer accepted on Riverside Apartments. Ready to proceed." I looked around the room that had been mine since we moved into this building 10 years ago. The walls were already half bare, my presence being erased to make way for Sophia's latest whim. 10 years of rent payments, of being the responsible one, of helping with bills while my sister explored her creativity. "Yes," I typed back. "Proceed immediately." My mother finished emptying my closet and turned to face me finally. "You can sleep on the couch tonight if you need to, but Sophia wants to start painting tomorrow." I shouldered one of the garbage bags. "Don't worry about it. I'll be gone tonight." She nodded, already distracted by Sophia calling from the other room about paint swatches. I took one last look at my now empty room and walked out, closing the door quietly behind me. In the hallway I ran into Mr. Patterson, our elderly neighbor who'd lived in the building for 30 years. He looked at the garbage bags in my hands, understanding dawning in his kind eyes. "Sophia's taking over your room?" he asked. I nodded. He shook his head slowly. "Your parents, they never did see what was right in front of them, did they?" Mr. Patterson was the only person in the building who knew what I really did for a living. He'd figured it out after seeing my photo in a business magazine last year. But he'd kept my secret, understanding somehow that my family's ignorance was a choice mine and theirs. "How's the sale going?" he asked quietly, making sure no one else was in the hallway. "Offer was just accepted," I replied. "You'll be getting the official notice soon." He smiled. "Good. This building needs someone who understands its value. And don't worry about my rent, I know you'll be fair." I touched his arm gently. "You're never going to have to worry about rent again, Mr. Patterson. I keep my promises." Back in my luxury downtown apartment, the one my family thought was a tiny studio in a bad neighborhood, I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. The purchase agreement for Riverside Apartments was waiting in my inbox. 40 units, including the one where my parents and sister lived, about to become mine for $12 million cash. My assistant, Kate, appeared in my office doorway with a cup of coffee. "The papers just came through. Want me to send them to legal?" I nodded, taking the coffee. "How long until we can start implementing changes?" "Once the sale closes?" "Immediately. Though." She hesitated. "Are you sure you want to do this? They're still your family." I pulled up the building's financial records on my screen. Years of barely made rent payments from my parents, always covered at the last minute by my loans. Late fees waived because Sophia needed art supplies or workshop fees. All while I paid extra rent for a room I hardly used just to help them keep afloat. They stopped being family the moment they threw my things in garbage bags, I said. Send everything to legal. And Kate? Make sure the new lease agreements are ironclad. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of paperwork and preparations. I moved the rest of my things out of my parents' apartment, listening to Sophia talk about her plans for her studio, while our mother beamed with pride. Neither of them helped me carry boxes. Neither of them asked where I was going. My father, when he was home from his endless business trips trying to save his failing import company, just shrugged and said, "You're always so dramatic, Diana. It's just a room. Just a room." Just like it was just my college fund they'd given to Sophia for her first failed art gallery. Just like it was just my savings they'd borrowed for her art school tuition before she dropped out. Just like it was just my future they'd sacrificed over and over for her dreams. The sale closed faster than expected, thanks to my all-cash offer and the current owner's eagerness to unload the aging building. I had plans for renovations, for improvements, for bringing the property into the modern age. But first there were some changes that needed to be made. I waited until my sister's studio warming party. Yes, she actually called it that before making my move. Through the building's security cameras I'd had quietly installed, I watched as her artistic friends filled my old room, exclaiming over her vision for the space. My parents played the proud hosts, never mentioning that their other daughter had been displaced to make this possible. That's when the emails went out to all tenants. Dear residents of Riverside Apartments, we are pleased to announce that ownership of the building has transferred to Secure Core Properties, effective immediately. All current leases will be reviewed and updated to reflect market rates and new building policies. Please expect further communication regarding required apartment inspections and upcoming renovations. Sincerely, management. I watched through the cameras as my mother opened the email on her phone, her face paling slightly. Sophia, in the middle of explaining her plans for a floor-to-ceiling mural, didn't even notice. My father noticed, though. I saw him pull my mother aside, their worried whispers picked up by the building's new state-of-the-art security system. Market rates, my mother hissed. We can't afford market rates. And what inspections? The apartment isn't up to code since Sophia knocked down that wall for her pottery phase. My father ran his hands through his thinning hair. I'll talk to the new management company. Explain our situation. We've been here 10 years, they'll have to work with us. I smiled, taking a sip of wine as I watched their panic unfold on my multiple monitors. They had no idea that their situation was about to become much more complicated than just increased rent. Ms. Zhang, Kate appeared in my doorway again. The inspection team is ready whenever you are. I nodded, still watching my family's growing realization that their comfortable world was about to change. Schedule it for tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. sharp. And the new lease terms? Send them out tonight. Let's see how they handle the news that their rent is tripling. As I watched, my mother made a familiar move, reaching for her phone, presumably to call me for another emergency loan. But this time when she dialed my number she got a message I'd been waiting years to deliver. The number you are trying to reach is no longer in service. The inspection team arrived exactly at 9 a.m., their uniform jackets bearing the Secure Core Properties logo I'd designed myself. Through the building's cameras, I watched my family's morning chaos screech to a halt at the sound of the doorbell. Building inspection, a crisp voice announced. We need access to all rooms immediately. My mother opened the door in her robe, clearly flustered. Behind her, I could see Sophia frantically trying to hide her art supplies, many of which were against building code. Paint thinners, industrial solvents, the torch she'd bought for her metalworking phase. Now isn't a good time, my mother started, but the lead inspector cut her off. Mrs. Zhang, the inspection notice was sent yesterday. Failure to comply will be noted in your tenant file. I watched as they methodically documented every violation. The wall Sophia had knocked down. The ventilation system she'd disabled because it ruined the artistic atmosphere. The water damage from her pottery wheel. My father arrived home mid-inspection, having rushed from another failed business meeting. This is ridiculous, he protested as the inspectors photographed the illegal electrical modifications Sophia had made for her kiln. We've lived here for 10 years. The old owner never complained. The old owner, the inspector replied coolly, is no longer relevant. Secure Core Properties has different standards. By afternoon, the inspection report landed in my inbox. 37 code violations. 4 major safety hazards. Estimated cost of repairs, $45,000. I had Kate send out the formal notice immediately. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Zhang, following today's inspection, we have identified numerous violations requiring immediate attention. As per your new lease agreement, all repairs must be completed within 30 days at tenant's expense. Failure to comply will result in eviction proceedings. Additionally, your current rent payment is past due. Please note that under new management, there will be no more grace periods or payment arrangements. Sincerely, management. The response was immediate. My mother called my old number 15 times. My father sent desperate emails to the management company requesting a meeting. Sophia posted dramatic Instagram stories about heartless corporations destroying artistic spaces. I let them stew for a week before having Kate arrange a meeting. They thought they'd be meeting with property management. Instead, I had the doorman direct them to the penthouse office I'd built on the building's top floor. Through the security feed, I watched them enter the lobby, looking nervous in their best clothes. My father carried a folder full of papers, probably financial records he thought would earn them sympathy. My mother held her lucky charm, a jade pendant she only wore for important meetings. Sophia hadn't bothered to dress up, wearing paint-splattered jeans and a shirt declaring, "Art has no rules." Rules, I murmured, watching them step into the elevator. You're about to learn all about rules. They were kept waiting in the reception area for exactly 15 minutes. Long enough to make them nervous, not long enough to make them leave. Finally, Kate showed them into my office. I sat behind my desk, back turned to the door, looking out over the city through floor-to-ceiling windows. I heard them enter, heard their footsteps falter as they took in the expensive furniture. The modern art on the walls, real art, not Sophia's experiments. Please sit down, I said, not turning around yet. We're here to discuss our apartment, my father began, his voice straining to sound authoritative. There seems to be some misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, I cut him off, slowly turning my chair to face them. Everything is exactly as I intended. The silence that followed was magnificent. My mother's hand flew to her jade pendant. My father's folder slipped from his fingers, papers scattering across my imported marble floor. Sophia's mouth hung open, her carefully practiced artistic nonchalance shattered. Diana, my mother finally managed. What are you doing here? I own the building, I said simply. All of it. Including your apartment, the one you threw me out of. That's impossible, my father sputtered. You work in IT. I own Secure Core Systems, I corrected him. The cybersecurity firm worth $500 million. The one that just bought this building. The one that's been featured in Forbes, Fortune, and the Wall Street Journal. I paused. But you wouldn't know that, would you? You were too busy supporting Sophia's artistic journey to notice. This is a joke, Sophia declared, but her voice wavered. You can't own a whole building. I pressed a button on my desk and the wall behind me lit up with screens showing security feeds from throughout the building, including their apartment, where the remains of my old room were still visible beneath Sophia's artistic chaos. I own this building, I repeated. I own the apartment you live in. I own the room you took from me. And now we're going to discuss your new living arrangements. My father found his voice first. Diana, be reasonable. We're your family. Family. I picked up a folder from my desk. Let's talk about family. Let's talk about the $100,000 of my rent money you gave to Sophia for her failed art gallery. Let's talk about the college fund you drained for her art school tuition before she dropped out. Let's talk about how you threw my belongings in garbage bags to make space for her creativity. I needed that space. Sophia protested. My art dash. Your art hasn't sold a single piece, I cut her off. Your art has destroyed property I now own. Your art is the reason you're facing eviction. Eviction. My mother went pale. You wouldn't. I wouldn't. I stood up, walking around my desk. Like you wouldn't throw out your own daughter? Like you wouldn't choose one child over the other over and over again. We can pay the new rent, my father said quickly. Just give us time. Time. I laughed. Like the time you gave me to move out. No, here's what's going to happen. You have 3 choices. I handed them each a document. Option 1. Pay for all repairs, bring the apartment up to code, and start paying market rate rent $5,000 per month. They flinched at the number. Option 2. Move out within 30 days, no penalties charged for the violations. My mother started to object, but I held up my hand. Option 3. Stay in the building in a different apartment. 1 bedroom, basic amenities, no special treatment. Sophia finds her own place. 1 bedroom. Sophia scoffed. Where would I work? That's not my problem anymore, I replied. Just like finding a place to live wasn't your problem when you took my room. My father leafed through the documents, his business experience finally kicking in. These terms, they're not negotiable? Nothing about this is negotiable, I confirmed. You have 24 hours to decide. Or what? Sophia challenged. I smiled. Or I press charges for the code violations, bill you for all damages and have you evicted immediately. The choice is yours. We'll go to the press, my mother threatened. Tell them how you're treating your own family. Please do, I said, pressing another button on my desk. A video began playing on the wall screens, security footage from the day they threw me out. I'm sure the media would love to see how you treated your daughter. How you prioritized one child's hobbies over another's basic needs. How you took advantage of my success while pretending I was a failure. They sat in stunned silence, watching themselves on the screens. Watching as they dismantled my life without a second thought. 24 hours, I reminded them. And one more thing, the jade pendant you're clutching, Mom? I bought that. Just like I bought this building. Just like I've bought everything you've needed for the past 5 years while you praised Sophia's potential and ignored my reality. They left my office looking shell-shocked, their perfect family narrative finally shattered. Through the cameras I watched them argue in the elevator, blame flying back and forth. Sophia stormed off to her friend's apartment. My parents retreated to their violation-filled home to contemplate their options. The next day, exactly on deadline, they chose option 3. The small apartment was ready for them. I'd had it prepared in advance, knowing they'd never agree to the market rate rent or living separately. As they moved their belongings from their old apartment to their new, much smaller one, I had contractors begin work on their old unit. The walls Sophia had damaged came down completely, making way for my new home office. The room that had been mine, then briefly Sophia's studio, became a state-of-the-art security center. Mr. Patterson stopped by as I was overseeing the renovations. They're saying you're heartless, he said, but his eyes were kind. That you've destroyed your family. I looked around at the space that had once been my home, then my prison, and was now truly mine again. No, Mr. Patterson. They destroyed our family long ago. I just finally bought the pieces. 3 months later, I sat in my new office, formerly my parents' living room, and watched them adapt to their new reality. My father found a job at a local import company, no longer pretending to run his own business. My mother took part-time work at a nearby shop. Sophia, unable to afford her own place, had moved in with a boyfriend in another part of town. They still lived in my building, but now they lived by my rules. No late rent, no special treatment, no more taking advantage of the daughter they'd underestimated. Ms. Zhang. Kate appeared in my doorway. Your parents left this for you. She handed me an envelope containing a card. Inside, in my mother's handwriting. We were wrong. We're sorry. Can we talk? I looked at the security screens showing their small apartment, where they now lived within their means for the first time in decades. Through the camera, I could see my mother sitting at their tiny kitchen table waiting for my response. I picked up my phone and typed out a message. Dinner next week. My apartment. We'll talk. Sometimes I realized you have to buy the whole building to make room for the truth. And sometimes the hardest room to build is the one where family can start over.